Hello, I'm Richard Ridge, and welcome to Broadway Beat, where we bring you the very best of what the New York theater scene has to offer. This week we'll bring you highlights from the one-night-only 15th anniversary concert of The Who's Tommy, which reunited the original 1993 Broadway cast, including Tony Award winner Michael Cerveris. We'll also visit with Will Ferrell, who's about to make his Broadway debut with his new one-man show called Will Ferrell's You're Welcome, America, a final night with George W. Bush, which will play a limited engagement at the Court Theater from January 20th through March 15th. We'll also drop by the Snapple Theater Center to catch up with the three new stars of the Fantasticks. They are Louis Cleal, Betsy Morgan, and Amazing Race winner Nick Spangler. But let's start things off with a look at The Soul of SHAOLIN, the new Chinese martial arts spectacle which has taken over the Marquee Theater for 24 performances only. Direct from appearances in Sydney, Macau, and the 2008 Beijing Olympics, Soul of SHAOLIN brings to Broadway 30 Chinese nationals who are highly skilled in Shaolin Kung Fu and tells the story of a young boy who is separated from his mother by war. He becomes an accomplished master of Shaolin Kung Fu and embarks on a spectacular journey of self-discovery. Soul of SHAOLIN runs through January 31st. Will Ferrell makes his Broadway debut with his new one-man show called Will Ferrell's You're Welcome, America, a final night with George W. Bush. It will play a limited engagement at the Court Theater from January 20th through March 15th. We stopped by the new 42nd Street studios and caught up with Mr. Ferrell during a break in rehearsal. First of all, welcome to Broadway.
Thank you.
What are you looking forward to the most with doing this on Broadway?
I'm just looking forward to the whole experience. The getting to do, a live performance 8 times a week in front of a crowd, which is something I've never done before. I've had some stage experience, but it's not been, this intensity. And I just think we've come up with a really funny, kind of poignant show that is going to make people laugh, but really speak to them and kind of. I think in my own way sum up these last 8 years.
How is the show being structured?
It's kind of the closest thing to a structure would be a little bit of a chronological dance through the events of these last 8 years. I mean, there's just so much ground to cover that it was a little tough to condense it into 75 minutes. But so we kind of pick and choose the hot spots and within that go in and out of kind of tangential stories of things we never knew.
Now, you tried the show out in L.A.,
yeah,
right, at the Largo?
Right.
What did you learn from that?
Well, it was just nice to kind of get up on our feet, and it was just more of a stage reading type of thing. And mostly we just learned, we used it as an editing tool. We were able to already kind of lose some things that didn't seem to work, and but for the most part, it was just an opportunity for me to kind of get up with it and just respond to the ebb and flow of an audience, and it was really useful. It's great.
Now, millions of people fell in love with you on SNL with your impersonation of George W. Was he easy to find? What were the easy things about perfecting George W. and the hardest and the easiest for you?
Well, I don't fully think of myself as an impersonation master. So I always just tried to find like an essence of his, and really I just kind of enjoyed finding this kind of cocky attitude regardless of what he was saying or doing, that he was never wrong in his own mind. And when I locked into that, that's where I kind of felt like I felt comfortable with him. Yeah.
Talk a little bit about your writing partner on this.
Yeah, well, Adam McKay is a friend of mine I met at the show. We've been working together since 1995, and so Adam's directing and has also kind of helped to co-write the piece, and so we it's very easy for us. We're very comfortable with each other, and he's kind of added a lot of different things that complement the structure that I already put there. So we work really easily.
The Fantasticks, the classic Tom Jones Harvey Schmidt musical, continues to charm audiences at the Jerry Orbach Theater located in the Snapple Theater Center on West 50th Street. Through the years, Broadway Beat has visited this musical numerous times. Now we catch up with the show's 3 new stars, Louis Cleal, Betsy Morgan, and Amazing Race winner Nick Spangler.
Deep in December, it's nice to remember, although you know the snow will follow. Deep in December, it's nice to remember, without a hurt, the heart is hollow. Deep in December, it's nice to remember the fire of September that made us mellow. Deep in December, our hearts should remember and follow.
Well, the joy of being in this production is that Tom Jones, who wrote it 48 years ago, is our guiding light, and he lets us bring, not that there's one interpretation, he's open to various things meaning different things as you investigate the character, and so you're not required to do exactly what someone else has done. And I love the character of El Gallo because, I mean, not only is he the narrator, but he gets to have fun playing he's the narrator, but he also plays El Gallo. So when he plays El Gallo, Tom Jones's direction to me was, you're making it up as you go along. Maybe you don't know what's happening in the second act. Maybe you've never gotten that far before. You're sort of setting the plot into motion, but you don't know where it's going to end up. So it's not a fixed entity. We're able to create and have our own interpretation of it as we go along.
Now talk a little bit about working with Tom Jones.
Well, he's been great. He put me into the show, and he's been back many times. He comes back about once a month to give us little tweaks, and there's little things that he likes, things that he doesn't like. But it's not very often that you would get a chance to do an original show with someone who wrote it a half a century ago, and he's still here to guide you and inspire you and help you to create. But also have a very open mind. He'll come into my dressing room maybe a couple of weeks ago. He came in and he said, Lou, I was thinking, I never thought of this. Try that. And I go home and I'm thinking to myself, well, have I been able to do that with Stephen Sondheim? No. A little bit with Andrew Lloyd Webber. But Tom Jones came in tonight in his 80s and gave me a direction that I mulled over, and the next night put something new into the show that Tom had never thought about in 50 years. So.
Perhaps I'm bad or wild or bad with a lot of grit inside. But I want much more than keeping house. Much more, much more.
The great thing about the Fantasticks is that it's so relevant now when it opened in 1960, whether you're 8, whether you're 15, whether you're 30, whether you're 60. There are elements and themes that run throughout the show that anybody can relate to. And specifically with Louisa, you would like to think that you're heart has hurts, to, you know, from the Try to Remember song, whether when you're younger and also when, you know, you're older, your heart has hurts, and you can always find something relevant to bring to the part, and I find that is true now even more than when I first played it, and certainly there were truths then. But I love being able. She's a free spirit, and who doesn't want to, you know, just let down their hair and be free just once before they're old? and even though the things that she goes out and does doesn't necessarily fulfill her heart, and how lovely that she just comes, how lovely that she comes home and refines this love, Matt.
My name is Nick Spangler, and I'm currently playing Matt in the Fantasticks at the Snapple Theater Center. When I first auditioned for the role of Matt, I had actually never seen the Fantasticks. I had barely even heard of it. I came to New York in 2003, a year after the original production had closed. So I went into my first audition, and they said, "Do you know any music from the show? Can you sing it for us right now?" And I said, "Sorry, I don't." The only song I'd heard was Much More. Some girls in my classes at NYU had sung it before. So, but I went back, I got the original recording, and listened to it, and came back and ended up in the show. And really, I've been with the show for so long that it's become such a huge part of me and who I am as an actor in New York City. You know, when I was at NYU, while I spent time at NYU, it was kind of as the Broadway pop jukebox musical revolution was happening. So a lot of people were just learning pop rock material, and I was kind of on the fence whether or not I should become one of those singers or stay as a traditionally and classically trained singer. So being in the Fantasticks for so long has really solidified within me that I am the kind of guy who sings classic musical theater, and I love the music that I sing every single night. So it's been a joy on so many levels, you know, even as far as finding out who I really am as a performer.
And will not complain
Happy ending.
if it never stops Happily we'll live and love, no cares at all. Happily we'll live and love.
Within our castle.
This year has been kind of hectic for me. I was in the Fantasticks as the year began, and then I left the show to go and compete on The Amazing Race. So for a month and a half this summer, my sister and I raced around the world and ended up winning $1 million together. We beat out 10 other teams in a race around the world, and then the craziest thing was I won $1 million. I had to keep it secret from everyone I knew, and I came back to New York, and 4 days later I started rehearsal for the Fantasticks again, and a little longer than another week or so later I was performing again. So it's kind of mind-boggling that I literally traveled around the globe, and then 4 days later I was right back into a routine, performing 8 times a week and singing, and I had all these experiences that I couldn't even share with anybody. And then it was fun as the show began to air in September. We would watch the show. We have Sunday night performances, and the Amazing Race aired on Sunday night. So we have a TV backstage, and every time we were off stage, we would all gather around and watch it together. And it was a lot of fun as the journey revealed itself to my cast members. It was fun to be able to talk about it and tell them things that didn't even get aired on the show. So it was a blast. And now the show's over, and my money's in the bank. And it's a little disappointing that that excitement isn't there anymore, but at the same time it's nice that I still have the Fantasticks, and I do still have this routine and something that I love doing 8 times a week.
The Fantasticks is a classic because it contains kernels of truth about the human condition that never change. They're essential to who we are, how we act out in our relationships. And the two composers, Jones and Schmidt, managed to condense that into a piece of theater where there's a drape, a box, a scarf, a hat, and a necklace, and yet it speaks to the human soul. And we all go through, I mean, especially in the times that we're in right now with the economy. I have a line every night that I say, who understands the secrets of the reaping of the grain? Who understands why we all must die a bit before we grow again? And I looked at Huffington Post today, and it's the highest unemployment rate ever. And there's a lot of people who are dying, but on the flip side, we have Obama coming, and we all feel like there's going to be growth and hope in the future again. So it's just, it contains lots of little morsels like that that make it timeless and classic and essential, and people cry. People cry sometimes when I sing Try to Remember. I look out and see a man wiping tears before I've even done anything. So clearly he either has a history or there's something about the context of it that makes people really relate to it. And they relate to all of us, the old actor, Mortimer, El Gallo, the girl wanting to branch out and be crazy and live, and the boy wanting to be, grown up and stable, and yet we all kind of go out into the world and we get beaten up. My other favorite line is, the play is not over until we've all been burned a bit and burnished by the sun. And that's just a great metaphor for life, I think. You come through it, you get through the pain, you get to the other side, and then you can look back and see the growth in yourself, and you've survived, and you're moving forward. And that's kind of life.
The August Wilson Theater played host for the one-night-only 15th anniversary concert of The Who's Tommy, which reunited the original 1993 Broadway cast, including Tony Award winner Michael Cerveris, who played Tommy. Part of the evening's proceeds went to Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS.
Tommy, can you hear me? Can you feel me near you? Tommy, can you see me? Can I help to cheer you? Ooh, Tommy, 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 can you hear me? Can you feel me near you? Tommy, can you see me? Can I help to cheer you? Ooh, Tommy, 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 Tommy.
It was a funny, kind of a unique experience, because in all honesty, we didn't expect to come to Broadway. And in fact, no, and people don't believe this, but it's the God's truth. The B word wasn't even mentioned for about the first 6 months. And I actually finally went to Cornwall and said to...
This is where it all started,
yeah,
this guy.
in La Jolla on the beach.
La Jolla by the sea.
I remember this guy saying it has such heart early in rehearsal, and I think that's the thing that distinguished it, really, isn't it? Okay. And finally I flew to Cornwall to see Pete to, just talk about the future. And that was the first time we'd ever spoken about Broadway. And we came to Broadway basically because he wanted to. We had no idea whether it would succeed or not. It was very different than other, traditional shows. And really from the first performance, audiences went absolutely wild. It wasn't like a typical Broadway reception. And so, it is great to revisit it.
Tommy was just a really creative time for me, so it was great at that point. It was a whirlwind because we all won all the awards, and it, swept whatever it swept. It's interesting how this snuck up, because in the years as I progressed and kept on going, I kept on thinking we were so ahead of this ourselves. Tommy would be like a huge hit right now. We should really get it back on Broadway. So at the back of my mind, and so a lot of stuff has come up about revivals, Las Vegas, different variations of Tommy in the past couple of years. And I thought, whatever they want to do, I'm there, because it is so great. Then when Donnie called me up about this, and I thought, really, do you really want to do this? And he said, yeah, absolutely. I said, yeah, okay. It's definitely a celebration, and it's very it's not trying to recreate it, so it's simplistic. It's really classy, and I think the footage will speak for what it was.
Well, I play a guy named Nigel, also known as Pinball Lad Number 2. So me and Donnie Kerr and Michael Cerveris and Anthony Barilli get to sing Pinball Wizard and reunite that, along with all the other, 20 different characters I played in the original show.
Acid Queen, I mean, iconic. We knew her from Tina Turner. I knew her from the album. I mean, what was that like doing that 8 times a week?
I was just thinking about that when you were talking to Norm. I love what Pete put on my poster. He said, I was the first queen, meaning he did it. He said, but you were the best. Now, the thing is, I so love Tina. I never heard anything before. Believe it or not, I never heard the song at all. And then I auditioned, I did it like that, and did it in the show, and then I heard it, I was like, oh, yes. And the thing is that she did it. She started this thing. She did the movie. I had to do it 8 shows a week. It's like, oh, my gosh. But I did it for 3 years, right?
3 years.
3 years. Because La Jolla started in the spring of 92, and then we closed, I think, June, I have a number brain, June of 95.
When work is done, you look at him, he'll never be more alive. My blood will run through his skin. Watch his body rise.
It's been really cool. Everyone's really nice and inviting. I was introduced to everyone, and they immediately accepted me. And it's so cool. I mean, the band, they have a rehearsal pianist, and everyone's singing, and they sound wonderful.
Why do you think this music has become so iconic? I mean, this was an album first, and it became a hit film, and then the show was a huge hit, the Broadway show. Why do you think that is?
It's a wonderful story. It's the music is great. I can't stop singing the music, and I think when you put that together, it makes just a whole great show, and it's wonderful.
Well, I think I tried to be very conscious at the time. I was aware that this was a big thing and it was a big deal. Although it became a big deal, it started out very small, so it grew organically into the massive hit that it became. But it started out very simply in a 500-seat theater in Southern California, so it was all kind of manageable in that way. If we'd gone from nothing to everything, it would have been really disorienting. But instead, and I think because we had each other and everybody was kind of going through the same thing at the same time, it was pretty easy for everybody to kind of keep their heads on and realize that it was just a real gift, the whole experience, and to enjoy every wild, bizarre part of it. One night we'd be singing with Pete Townsend in the basement of some club, and the next night we would be doing a big press day for, the entire Broadway press corps, none of whom we'd ever met before. And the awards stuff and all of that came along later, all of it really was secondary to the experience of telling that beautiful, moving story with that fantastic music. So that's what it was kind of about then, and it took me to places that I'd never even hoped to get to. So, I achieved goals that I didn't even have. So I think that's why I did it for so long. I did 1,403 performances of it over the course of 4 years because I loved every single one of them. And I wasn't looking for it to be a stepping stone to the next part of my career. It was just like, why would I want to do anything else when I can do this? So revisiting it now, I think it's more about kind of, I guess it feels like paying tribute to that time and sort of a thanksgiving, really, for everything that it opened the door to for me professionally, but really more just kind of in my development as a working actor and a person, But most of all, it's just sort of like saying thank you.